So after the security barriers open and we actually push off the pier and get out to sea, we have our gunners, mates, and weapons department manning our 50 caliber guns right here.
A low-ranking sailor can steer a $2 billion warship through open ocean and still go to sleep in a rack with a curtain for privacy. What does life look like for the youngest sailors on board? Today, we're looking at how they sleep, eat, shower, and work in the tight hierarchy of a destroyer. If you want more inside the ship breakdowns like this, hit subscribe right now because we do this every week. A guided missile destroyer carries somewhere around 250 to 300 sailors, depending on manning, and at the bottom of that structure sit the junior enlisted E1 through E4. These are the newest people on board, learning fast, working hard, and handling a massive share of the physical labor that keeps the ship alive every single day. They're not in staterooms with doors and desks. They live in berthing, the communal sleeping spaces built deep inside the hull where the priority isn't comfort. It's fitting one more system, one more locker, one more person into the steel. That reality hits you the moment you think about where they actually sleep. A rack isn't a bed. The word matters. A rack is built into the ship like part of the structure, stacked 3 high, narrow, tight-shaped to fit a human body and nothing more. You get a thin mattress, a small light, a curtain, and on many destroyers, a coffin locker. Storage built underneath where you pack every piece of your life that doesn't fit somewhere else. Uniforms, shower gear, extra socks, family photos, snacks, all of it lives in a space most people wouldn't consider roomy enough for a suitcase because space is the one thing a destroyer never has enough of, and the sailors at the bottom of the rank structure feel that more than anyone. And even inside berthing, not every rack is equal. Some sit right along the main walking path. People move through that space at all hours, heading to watch, coming back late, opening lockers, dropping gear, existing without thinking about who might be sleeping 3 feet away. Those are the racks that grind you down. Then there are the ones tucked into corners and alcoves, darker, quieter, just slightly removed from the constant foot traffic. Those are the good ones. Sailors know the difference. There's real estate, even in the most cramped spaces on board, and the difference between a survivable rack and a miserable one can come down to a few feet of distance from a passageway. The noise never fully leaves either. Ventilation hums, doors bang, pipes rattle, machinery pushes vibration through steel that doesn't absorb anything, feet hit the deck overhead. The whole ship feels alive, and not in a peaceful way. At night, the ship shifts to red lighting, partly to preserve night vision, partly to keep light from bleeding outward. It helps people move around without blinding everyone, but it doesn't make the ship quiet. When the weather turns and the seas build, the destroyer starts to move hard. Walking becomes a skill. Sailors joke about learning to walk on walls because sometimes that's what it actually feels like. Inside the rack, those straps along the edge aren't decoration. In rough water, they're what keep you from rolling out onto the deck below. The curtain is the closest thing to privacy a junior sailor gets. And that sounds almost funny until you've lived it. Pull it shut, and you carve out a tiny box where the rest of the ship disappears for a few minutes. When you live, sleep, dress, and wake up within feet of dozens of other people every single day for months, a few inches of fabric starts to carry real weight. Sailors pin up photos, keep a book tucked in, hold on to whatever small personal corner reminds them there's a world outside the steel. It's not much. On a long deployment, small things stop being small. And that's also why contact with home hits way harder out here than it would on shore. On land, a message is just a message. On deployment, it can feel like proof that the world you left behind still exists. That's why little routines start mattering so much. Reading the same note twice. You're looking at the same photo again before watch. Opening a care package and suddenly smelling something that doesn't belong to the ship. Some crews even use programs like United Through Reading, where sailors record themselves reading books so their kids or family back home can hear their voice while they're gone. That kind of thing sounds small until you put it inside months of steel, noise, and repetition. Then it stops being small real fast. Because when your whole daily life has been reduced to racks, passageways, and watch rotations, even one object from home can reset your head for a minute. It reminds you that you are not just part of the ship. You are also still somebody's son, daughter, spouse, parent, sibling, or friend, and sometimes that reminder is what gets you through the next stretch. Berthing also teaches etiquette fast because bad habits don't stay personal in a space that tight. You don't climb into a clean rack in dirty boots. You don't stomp around when someone's trying to sleep before watch. You don't throw your gear onto someone else's bunk. You move carefully, keep your area controlled, and understand that respect isn't an abstract virtue on board. It's how dozens of people survive, sharing every part of their daily lives inside a steel hull that never gets bigger. And even the sleeping space can become dangerous in seconds. That's why emergency escape breathing devices sit near the rack on many ships, ready to grab if smoke fills the compartment. They're not for fighting the fire, they're for getting out alive. That detail tells you something important about what it means to live on a destroyer. Even the place where you sleep is designed around the possibility of flooding, fire, or toxic smoke turning a berthing space into a death trap. The ship doesn't let you forget what it is, even when you're trying to rest. Getting clean follows the same communal logic. The head is shared. Sinks, toilets, showers, all of it runs on a rotation used by a lot of people on different schedules. It's connected to berthing on some ships and a few compartments away on others, but either way, it's one more space that belongs to everyone and no one at the same time. Cleaning standards matter, field days matter, and the condition of that space lands on everybody. Laundry runs the same way. There's no casual toss it in and forget routine. Clothing gets marked. Divisions run assigned laundry cycles, and if you don't stay on top of your schedule, you start losing gear, time, and patience in a place where all three are already short. Now, food, because this is where people outside the Navy often assume life softens a little. It doesn't get luxurious, it gets functional. Junior sailors eat on the mess decks, the communal eating space where the crew rotates through in waves because there isn't room to seat everyone at once. You move through the line, grab your meal, find space, eat, clean up, and clear out so the next group can come through. It's a flow, not a meal. And the culinary specialists running that galley work hours, most people wouldn't tolerate to keep food moving for the crew. 3 hot meals a day when operations allow, sometimes extra food for the watchstanders pulling the overnight rotation. Nobody's pretending it's a restaurant, but when you've been moving all day through heat, stress, and fatigue, a basic meal lands differently than it does on the beach. A good galley raises morale across the entire ship. A rough stretch of bad food does the opposite. The sailors working food service aren't just cooking, they're keeping the whole crew functional. And food connects straight into one of the biggest days in the ship's rhythm, replenishment at sea, because none of this just magically appears in the galley. At some point, another ship has to come alongside in open water and pass over the fuel, cargo, food, and mail that keep a destroyer going. Official Navy reporting straight up calls replenishment at sea one of the most complicated things an Arleigh Burke destroyer does, and you can see why. 2 big gray hulls running close together, heavy fuel hoses, under pressure, cargo riding across on lines, everybody locked in, everybody paying attention, because a mistake out there can hurt people fast. On one deployment, USS Spruance took on more than 2.5 million gallons of fuel and hundreds of pallets of supplies across multiple replenishments. USS Curtis Wilbur took on more than 200,000 gallons of fuel and 38 pallets of food, supplies, and mail in less than 3 hours, and the Navy noted that every available sailor helps store what comes aboard. That matters for your junior sailor angle because this is one of those moments where the whole ship suddenly feels the outside world arriving at once. Fuel for the mission, food for the mess deck, mail for morale, and then a wave of sailors moving fast to get it all below before the next task starts. All of it runs on watch standing. A destroyer is a 24-hour machine, so sailors live in rotations, 6 on, 6 off for some. Schedules that blur into 12-hour days once you stack watch, maintenance, drills, cleaning, training, and the basic tasks of existing inside a warship. The time off isn't truly off. You might use it to shower, eat, do laundry, prepare gear, handle training requirements, or just try to sleep before someone wakes you for the next thing. Exhaustion stops being something sailors talk about because it just becomes the baseline. It's the water they swim in. The Navy has had to take fatigue more seriously because tired watchstanders on a warship are not just uncomfortable. They are a risk to the ship and everybody on it. After the 2017 USS John S. McCain collision, Naval Safety Command highlighted that surface ships were pushed toward watch rotations that line up better with the body's natural circadian rhythm and schedules that protect actual sleep periods for watchstanders. That tells you something important. Broken sleep is not just part of the vibe, it can become a real readiness problem. So when junior sailors talk about being smoked, they aren't just complaining that life is hard, They are living inside a system where attention, timing, and judgment matter all the time. On the bridge, in engineering, in damage control, in every narrow space where one mistake can ripple outward. On a destroyer, being tired is normal. The problem is that the ship still expects you to perform like it isn't. And the work itself is real. Junior sailors handle line work during sea and anchor detail, stand watch on the bridge, maintain equipment clean, inspect, preserve, stand security, support weapons systems, and carry every small invisible task that keeps a destroyer from going dead in the water. A junior helmsman can be the one physically steering the ship, following commands from the officer of the deck, moving a billion-dollar warship through open ocean. These sailors live at the bottom of the comfort ladder, but they're nowhere near the bottom of importance. They're the reason the ship works. Moving through the ship operates on its own logic, too. Passageways are tight, ladder wells are steep. You look before you commit because someone's always coming the other way. You make room for senior sailors, for people carrying gear, for anyone who needs the space more urgently than you do. It's not politeness. It's traffic control inside a steel maze, and you learn the language fast, compartment markings, deck numbers, port and starboard, forward and aft, bullseyes that tell you exactly where you are inside the hull. On shore, you navigate by streets and buildings. On a destroyer, you navigate by decks, frames, and sides, and if you don't know that map, you're a problem for everyone around you. Drills make all of it sharper. Fire at sea isn't someone else's problem. Flooding isn't someone else's problem. There's no outside fire department coming to a ship 100 miles from shore. When the alarm goes off, you move, gear up, get to your assigned role, and work. A junior sailor in coveralls might be the one pulling on heavy damage control gear, breathing hard in a passageway barely wide enough to move, attacking a casualty in a space with low overheads and steel on every side. It's hot, awkward, exhausting work, and it can become your reality any hour of any day. And that constant pressure is exactly why rare morale breaks matter so much. Because every now and then, the ship tries to give the crew a pressure valve. Destroyers really do hold steel beach picnics on the flight deck, the kind of event that sounds almost ridiculous until you remember what normal life on board feels like. After days or weeks of fluorescent lights, machinery noise, and bulkheads in every direction, even a few hours of open sky feels different. You are still on the warship. You are still deployed. But for a minute, the ship stops feeling only like a machine and starts feeling like a place full of tired people trying to stay human together. Navy reporting and official photos show destroyer crews using steel beach events as something to look forward to in a work environment that is otherwise relentless. That contrast is the point. Life for junior sailors is not one long cinematic grind with no breaks. It is hard routine, then a small morale release, then right back into the routine again. And honestly, that whiplash probably tells you more about ship life than either part does by itself. So here's what life actually looks like for a low-ranking sailor on a destroyer. You live in a rack behind a curtain while the ship hums, rolls, and keeps moving around you. You share everything, the head, the laundry machines, the mess deck, the passageways, with the same people you work next to all day. You stand watch, train, clean, maintain, and repeat until the ship's rhythm runs deeper than your own. You learn the map, the etiquette, the noise, the motion, and the emergencies until all of it feels like second nature. None of it's built for comfort. It's built to keep a warship running with a few hundred people packed inside a limited amount of steel. And the junior sailors carrying those routines and those racks through those nights are the reason the whole system holds together. Subscribe for more breakdowns like this and drop it in the comments. What part of destroyer life would test you the most? The total loss of privacy, the broken sleep, the constant motion, or knowing that even the place where you rest is still part of the fight?